Hello, welcome to our Dream to Rise. And this is Cynthia Concordia, your host. And I am so grateful to have a guest speaker. Her story offers hope to those who have or in the middle of sexual abuse, abandonment, rejection, running away, bulimia, drugs, adoption, finding birth family, near suicide, finding a way to forgive those who have extremely hurt you the most, and the need of mental and or emotional healing. She would not be here today if it wasn't for her relationship with the Lord. She has shown her, the Lord shown her how to forgive. And in that, found the deepest healing. She loves to hike, involved in a prayer group in their neighborhood and at church, likes photography, blogging, and helps raise her granddaughter. Wow, she's very young. If you'll see her, she looks very young to have a granddaughter. So let us all welcome Miss Kari E. Wiseman. Welcome, Kari. How are you?
Thank you. Hello. I am doing very well today. It's a good day. Good day to be alive.
Of course. That's what we should always be grateful for.
Yep.
Another day when we open our eyes. Another opportunity for all of us.
And I'm 57, by the way.
See,
I'm not young, but I feel young. I guess you're only as old as you feel, right? I feel young. So yeah.
Me, I'm 62.
Hey.
See?
You don't look it.
I feel young. We all feel young. Why? Because it's the Lord who's giving us so much. So the grace, the life that we are experiencing right now. Okay, let's go and go to your. I just want to ask your story. If you could share your story with us, and what were your biggest obstacles that you had to overcome, and your lessons you've learned that brought you to where you are right now.
Oh, wow. I will try to keep it as abbreviated as possible because my story covers a lot of ground in a lot of years. But the gist of it, when I was 2, I was adopted by a family that had 2 boys. My new brother was handicapped, so my parents couldn't have a girl. So they wanted to adopt a girl, and I was 2. When I was 10, my adopted father started sexually abusing me for 3 years. Maybe I was 9, but somewhere in there. And nobody else knew about it, even though I had mentioned it, no one believed me. Now, I grew up in a Lutheran Christian home, so for this stuff to occur just was unheard of and not believed. So I just kind of kept it to myself, but I started acting out as a result. And at 13, my parents didn't know what else to do with me. So they sent me away. They just sent me away. I found myself for the next 5 years living at a school in Wisconsin with 40 other kids that ranged from ages 8 to 17, from ADHD to gangs in Brooklyn and Chicago. And that's where I grew up. But it was during this bizarre time, initially, I just thought, I'm not wanted. I'm not loved. I'm the black sheep of the family. I nearly commit suicide at 13. I climbed up into this massive tree in the middle of the farm and was like, I'm just going to hang myself because I'm not wanted. And who am I anyway? So fortunately, the Lord intervened at that moment somehow, and I didn't go through with it. I climbed back down, and that was in May of 79. And it was just a few months later that the Lord actually called me and was like, be my daughter. You've gone through all this. I've been there. I've seen what's gone with you. Come to me. I will love you, help you, teach you how to forgive, teach you how to love, how to show you that you are accepted, that you are valued. And so it was a process for sure. But I was at 16 able to forgive my dad, and he never really had, wanted to discuss it. He didn't want to discuss it or go over it. And I just knew that what I had done was the right thing, just forgiving him and moving on. The gist of my story is about forgiving. Because I was able to forgive my dad, I wasn't holding that grudge against him anymore. And though I had scars, learning to forgive him, I found such healing and freedom that the scars that I have, though they're not physical, they're, emotional. The scars that I have don't hurt. I can tell my story and not feel anything about it. It's more just factual. And my hope and prayer for others that if they're going through this or have gone through it and can't seem to get past it, that talk to the Lord about it. He will show you that you've been forgiven as well. And as a result, forgiving that person doesn't stop them from being accountable or, consequences for their actions. It releases us from hanging on to that pain. And that is where the freedom is at. And that is where we find our hope, is knowing that the Lord can take what we've gone through, give us the empathy for others who are in a similar situation, so that they can say, hey, how did you get through this? And you can tell them. And that is what we as believers are called to do, is to encourage one another and help one another and lift them up off their, when they're face down in the ground, just in mourning and in pain. It's like, the best thing to do was, for me, was just to release it, forgive him, and move on. We have since become amicable. We can talk. He doesn't recall any of it. He has, we'll call it amnesia. But he did give me permission to tell my story. Now, not a lot of abusers will do that, but my dad was like, if this is what you remember, then you need to tell your story. He gave me the voice to tell my story to others.
That's
and
good.
That is a God thing. Because that's not common, and I wasn't willing to tell it without that. Now, my story is written in a book form called A Daughter to Many. There are aliases in there, because just to protect some people's identities, I wrote some aliases, but it's very, other than the alias, it's factual. But many people have said to me, thank you for writing this, because my story is so much more than just about that. It's about finding my birth family, and how when the Lord is in your life, it is so fun to look back and see how he was in the situation all along and in control, and worked things out long before you ever got to that point. Because in my trying to find my birth family, it was a fun process that I'll just give you a quick glimpse of it, of how I know that there's no such thing as coincidence when God's in your life. My husband and I knew tiny bits of information from my adoption papers. And we started calling churches to see if my grandfather, who had been a Baptist pastor in North Dakota, we called the third church we called to say, was there ever a pastor here by this name? They said, yes. Here's a number of a woman who's still in touch with them. So we called this woman, and she was very, protective. Why you want to talk to him? What's going on? Unbeknownst to me at this time, now I'm 30 years old, granted, at this point. Unbeknownst to me, when my birth mother got pregnant at 15, with my grandfather being a pastor, my mother got sent away to have the baby, and then I was given up for adoption. So birth father was not in the picture, birth mother no longer in the picture, and outside of the immediate family, only 2 people knew I existed, that she had a little girl. This woman that we were put in touch with in that church was one of those 2 people. Now, what are the odds of that happening? The 3rd church we called is, they put us in touch with a woman who knew my grandfather from 30 years prior, that was one of 2 that knew I even existed. I mean, God was so in the center of this search of my story. And it's like I said, the beauty of it is just looking. It's more than just a small world thing. It's like, there's no such thing as coincidence with God. He is there to, he's weaving our stories. Yeah, he's
he
weaving our
orchestrated
stories.
everything. Yes.
Yes, he is weaving our stories like a professional, and he is wanting us to recognize that, thank him for it, and to share it, to share this good news of who he is, and the fact that we have purposes, and sharing our stories does help others heal and find hope and peace, and can lift them up of whatever they're in the middle of. That's just 2 little parts of my story.
So you were able to meet your grandfather?
Yes.
So how
Okay,
was the encounter?
oh my gosh. Well, when we called him was in April. Then he said, I just have to tell you, your birth mother did die when she was 19. And so he told me all about it. And he said, but we are having a family reunion in June, just 2 months later. And I would like to invite you to come so you can meet all of your mother's family. Now, my grandfather was in, at the time, Portland, Oregon. I had an uncle in Jacksonville, Florida, another uncle in Nebraska, and my aunt was in Portland, Oregon as well. And I was at the time living in Nashville, Tennessee. The reunion had been set for Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, 3 hours from where I lived. Now, they lived everywhere else in the country, not Tennessee, but that's where they had planned this reunion. So 2 months later, I got to meet all of my birth family, minus my mother. And it was such a time of healing, because my mom getting pregnant at 15, me being given away, her passing away at 19, there was so much drama and trauma around all that, that it was all just pushed aside, pushed down, not talked about, not dealt with, forgotten, you know. But when I showed up in the picture, it just opened up everything, and everybody began to talk about it. And there was such healing just in that. And it was so beautiful. We stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning the first night, just sharing my story of the last 30 years of my life, and them just embracing myself and my husband. And we are an integral part of that family. The best news is they said, do you want to find your father? And I said, no, I don't. I'd already gone through bad stuff with my dad, my adopted dad. And I'm like, I don't need another man in my life, because I had my husband. They said, well, you should complete this circle. So they knew how to get in touch with him. He had never been told that I was born. He never knew that I was a girl. He never knew anything except he got my mother pregnant. That's all he knew. So on his parents' 50th wedding anniversary, as he was celebrating with them, he got a call from a mutual family friend that said, your daughter is looking for you. Now, I lived in Tennessee. He lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My husband and I had coincidentally, which I don't believe in, planned a trip to visit my mom and brother up in the Minneapolis area that fall. So when he reached out to me, I found out he lived in Minneapolis. Guess who I met 2 months later in August? So my birth father. He's never been married, doesn't have any other children. And finding me filled such a hole in his life. And he is an integral part of our lives. We see him a couple times a year. So God has restored this family in such a beautiful way. I took a picture of my father holding my granddaughter when she was first born almost 2 years ago. And I just submitted it to this juried art show. And you have to write a little blurb about your photo. And the topic was restored. And I was like, this is a no-brainer. This is my father, whom I found when I was 30, who's holding his great-granddaughter. Well, he never got to hold me. He didn't get to hold my daughter. And here he gets to hold his own great-granddaughter. I won first place for this photo because it was such a story. The photo was good, yes, but the story combined. And that's how God is with our lives. I mean, if we are just willing to share it and tell it of how he has healed us, how he has helped us overcome and go through these horrible things or confusing times in our life, like, what is my identity? I've had 3 names already, 3 first names. Every time I got adopted, which was twice, I had a new name. So it's like, I know who my identity is, though. Has nothing to do with here. It has to do with, I am a child of God. And that is where I find my identity. And that is why I'm able to share my story with people, is because that's who I relate to the most, because he is everything to me. So, okay, there's my story.
Amazing, amazing. You know what? You just my heart was melting while you were sharing your story. It was because I know it's difficult without any parent, no? Living by yourself, and then what you have gone through, had no voice, and now try to discover, reach out to your parents. The Lord really orchestrated everything so you'll be near the family reunion. You'll be there where your dad lives. God really already planned this out, no? It's just
Yes.
a matter of us opening our hearts, opening ourselves, accepting Him. I have great plans for you. And now you're giving so much hope and light for those who are adopted, for those who were given away, for those who were neglected by their birth parents and so on. But see the hope that you are sharing, the love that the Lord has been pouring on you. It's just amazing. This is an amazing story. Oh my, oh my. So I could see, I was about to ask you, I am sure the lessons learned here is about your relationship with God, or any other lessons learned.
Oh my. I lately
Forgiveness.
forgiveness, of course, that is bar none critical. But this season, I think the Lord has really been working in me to open my eyes more to those around me who are grieving still, whether it's from a loss in their life, like a loved one or a family member or a friend or a job, or people that are grieving. It's more to be more, how do I phrase it? To see them, to hug them, to let them know that you see them, you remember them, that you are there for them, because we don't know what people are going through in their life. We really don't, because most people wear a happy face and when they're out, or when they're in church, or when they're at their job, they don't open up. At the grocery store, how are you? I'm fine, great day. And inside they're torn apart. If we just take a moment, especially this holiday season, to give someone an extra long look, or buy their groceries, or hug them, or write them a note, something that lets them know that you see them, because they might be grieving. They might be reeling from something, because we don't know. And that is being the hands and feet of Jesus. That's one way of being empathetic, of being loving, of extending, I don't know, the greatest kind of love we can, which is
Yeah.
sacrificing of our own little world, our own time, our own self, what we focus on, to focus on the needs of others.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't even know they need that, but if you say something to them while standing in line, they'll break down in tears. I've had that happen. They're like, how did you know? Like, I didn't know. I just felt prompted to say something to you, and I did. So it's following through with the Spirit, just saying, whispering quietly, do this. And if you respond, you don't know how you're going to touch someone else.
Exactly.
So I have had many people do that for me. And that is why, my story is called A Daughter Too Many. My story started out, I was too many. I was one too many daughters. My first mother gave me up because she was too young. My first adopted mother gave me back to the agency because she had a page and a half of list of reasons why she didn't want to keep me anymore. My second adopted family sent me off to school for 5 years because they didn't know what to do with me. I was one too many. But God, He stepped in and provided so many families along the way that He knew I needed. He provided them, and I became a daughter to many. So that is part of my testimony as well. It's like, God will provide for you.
Yes. Amen.
He
Amen.
will, and
Yes.
He does. It's
Yes.
accept it and be humble about it, and do the same for others. Pay it forward.
Yes. You mentioned about doing good, just a mere smile. You know what? I've experienced someone at the park. I was just walking, and then I saw this lady. I just took a rest, and I sat beside her, and then and I'm the type of person who would just greet, "Hello, good afternoon, good afternoon." And then she was kind of hesitant to greet back. And then I hope I didn't disturb you or whatsoever, but I just want to say hi. And then suddenly she started crying. And then she said, "You know what? Thank you so much for your greeting, because I feel that nobody cares for me," and so on. And your smile and your greeting lit me up, and it gave me so much hope. See, just a mere greeting, even a smile, which is
Yep.
free, why not give it so others may be able to find that light as well? There might, when she cried, I'm sure she was in a situation wherein she feels hopeless, she
Mhm.
feels alone, and a mere smile could really be a big help for those who are really depressed. And when you mentioned about forgiveness, would you be able would you like to share what are the simple steps you did on, or because it's so easy to say, "Oh, I have
Yeah,
forgiven this
yeah.
person," but was there a process wherein you took and then applied so you'll be able to release that baggage which you've been carrying, and that is forgiving that person?
For me, to get to that point, it didn't require that much because I'd been working on, or not working on, I had a relationship with Jesus, and I knew that I needed to forgive him. That for him to forgive me, I needed to forgive my father. So I knew I needed to get to that point. And it wasn't that hard. It was, for me, it was just an act of saying it, because then my will went with it. If I willingly said it, then it was done. I knew I had forgiven him. Now, that was face to face at 16. I still held a little bit of resentment, will I say, for a few years, until he and I were face to face again after I'd gotten married. He then didn't come to my wedding because he and his wife were off on vacation and didn't want to come because my mom was going to be there. So when he came to visit me and my husband in Nashville, and his wife, who didn't know anything about the incest, I explained, no, this is because of what had happened in my childhood. This is why I've been very distant from you. Now, I had forgiven him, but so much time had passed and he had never acknowledged that it had happened. And at that point, he still couldn't. But his wife said, no, I know he has memory problems because I'm his caretaker. But I told him again, Dad, I forgive you for it. And this time I knew that it was just completely released. Now, for some people, it doesn't work that way. He passed away. I have a good friend, Scott, who grew up in Chicago. And he was part of a gang group, and he had done some awful things in his teenage years. He became a Christian down the road, and he and I became very good friends. We went to school together briefly, but he had some forgiveness issues for himself and for his mother. He could not forgive his mom and for some terrible things she had done to him and allowed to be done to him. And he and I would talk on the phone, and he would say, how do I forgive her? How do I do this? I'm so angry. And I said, it's a matter of will. Every morning when you get up and you're having your prayer time, acknowledge, I forgive my mother. I forgive her. Just say it. It's not an emotional thing. You have to say it. Sometimes you have to say it every day for an extended period of time, but you know you're doing what you need to do. You know you need to forgive this person, but it's a repetitive thing. We learn by repetition often. And by saying this over and over, it will take into your heart. It will, because you know it's the right thing to do, and you need to for yourself. Not necessarily for her, but for your own self, to get past this stagnant point and to move forward. And he did that. He did. And he was able to forgive his mother. It took him about a year of saying it literally every morning, but it took into his heart, and he knew he had forgiven her. But if he wouldn't have done this repetitive thing, I don't think he would have gotten there. But for some people, that's what it might take. It's not a feeling or an emotion necessarily. Now, for some, it might be, but for him, it was not. It was, I know I need to do this. This is what I have to. And so he kept doing it until he knew in his heart, he had forgiven her.
Yes. When you repeat this thing several times, it becomes part of your system already.
Yeah.
And so it's automatic. But others would say, forgive and forget. How would you explain that? Do you believe in that statement, forgive and forget?
The forgetting part's very, very hard, unless you're getting older like me.
Excuse me, I'm older than you, please. You're still very, very young.
Forgetting is hard, but that is also an intentional thing. If you know you've forgiven that person, again, it doesn't release their consequences. If someone robs someone, they're still going to go to jail. If the judge says bang, that's still going to happen. Forgetting on your part, it for some is easier than others. For me, like I said, I can tell the story and I don't feel the pain or the hurt. I just have the scars to show for it. But Jesus has scars to show what he did for us. So they tell a story. I can say this, as time has passed, I remember less of it, which is also a form of healing. Time is a beautiful thing. Thank goodness we have some of it. But that's what's helped me. Again, forgetting, not easy to do, but as long as don't focus on it. I think that's part of getting past it, is don't focus on it. If you've forgiven, why focus on it?
Exactly.
Move forward.
Exactly. And I would say that, well, based from what happened to me, and my children, it will remain just like history, everything, all the important what's the milestones, the marks in your book, in your chapter, in your life will remain there, but then you get the lessons learned and then apply those lessons learned as you move forward to avoid recurring that incident again. Or me probably have to improve myself more, improve how I relate more with other people, or probably change my mindset. Instead of focusing on the negative, why not focus on the positive?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I could I see it. It will be there, but then you've become a better version of yourself because of that. Something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. So I could see, because of God, all the stories that you were saying, coincident or whatever, something happened. So do you believe in manifestations?
Explain that.
Manifestation, that when I shared my story with you, suddenly I lacked the money to send my son to school. And then suddenly it came about. Someone advised me to downsize. It saved me 50% of my mortgage. Suddenly I got promoted without even applying. Suddenly someone advised, why won't you apply for grants and scholarships? I didn't know about those things. So for me, and then I was able to manifest my dream. And that is to send my son to school. And now, because of that, my son is now manifesting or living his purpose, trying to advocating sustainability in the food industry. I think that is now his advocacy. So that's what I've learned from my life, that manifestation really happened in my life. And I don't know with you, and it seems it happened.
In that description, yes.
Yes. And isn't it because God was in control? God was
Yep.
trying to put things together to make it happen, right?
Yeah. And he uses people, he uses circumstances,
Yes.
But he works it out, and it's just seeing it, looking at it through the right eyes. We can look at things through rose-colored glasses, think it's all fine, but it's looking at it through the lenses of oh my gosh, and recognizing the fact that this is something that the Lord has done. He's brought this person to my life. He's provided the money for this. It's like he's taking care of it. Like, I didn't have a car when I was in Bible school for a year. Someone anonymously bought me a car. It's like he provided that.
See?
He uses people to take care of his people. And that's what we're trying to do. He's using us to help other people that need help or need hope. That's people helping people. And I believe praying for other people and intercessory prayer is the same thing. He's using, not that he needs us to pray for other people. He already knows what he's going to do. He's giving us the opportunity to be involved and intertwined with other people's lives. And that is a joy and a gift. So.
Oh, lovely. So do you have a goal for the next 12 months?
Yes.
What is your goal for the next 12 months?
I have a couple, but my main one right now is beginning a second book, and it is my blog, which is called snapinspire.com. It's an inspirational blog. It used to be daily, but I couldn't keep up the daily aspect of it. That took a lot of time. It's a blog that has words of inspiration for godly living, and along with my photography, because I love photography. So I've it's been suggested to me, and the Lord's already given me the title, to make this into a book, like for a coffee table, so that people can just pick it up and find some inspiration that day that they might need regarding whatever the topic is.
Mhm.
So that is something that I am beginning. I mean, everything's written already because I have this blog, but it's compiling it, figuring out what's the right thing. And so within the next year, I'd like to have that published. Yes.
Mhm. So what do you think would be the biggest roadblock for you to achieve that goal?
Money. Well, that's an easy one. I've discovered that's a lot more because it's all color. So when you add color to the mix, more than just black and white with words, that's a lot more money. But again,
That's a limiting belief.
If this is something the Lord wants me to do, then he will provide, or tell my husband, pay it up. So I don't know, one of the two.
Isn't it you have a daughter? How old
I
now
do.
is your daughter?
My daughter is 22.
Oh,
My
she's
granddaughter just turned 2, and my son is 18. My daughter and granddaughter live here with us, and she's in college. And my granddaughter's in daycare at the moment. So she just had a birthday, November 24th. So it's very exciting.
I'm enjoying my life as a grandma as well. My granddaughter is 7 months old, and I would always ask my daughter, because she goes on a daycare because she lives like 40 minutes away from me. I would ask her, could you have scheduled something like a FaceTime before you send her to the daycare, because I just want to see her. Every morning we would FaceTime each other, and because I would always teach her to say Lola as grandma. That's the Tagalog word.
You're Lola. Okay.
Lola.
I'm Nana.
Nana, yes.
Nana, yeah. It's really something having your granddaughter living with you, a grandchild, because a lot of grandparents don't get that. They live on other parts of the country from their children.
Yes.
So yes, it's a challenge.
Yes.
She's in her terrible 2 phase, but it's oh my gosh, just to hear her in the morning, and she comes downstairs and wants a good morning hug, and it's just like, just melts your heart.
Exactly. Sometimes even though you're tired, when you see them happy and chats with you, your being tired just disappears, no?
Yeah. Yes.
So, would you, because I know you've gone through so much, was there someone who really made an impact on how you view life?
Yeah, there were several. How can I limit it to one? 2 especially. Okay, 3, but I'll go to 2. Okay. The boarding school that my parents sent me to in Wisconsin, the pastor and his wife dedicated their lives to kids. I mean, they had 2 boys of their own, but they dedicated their lives. And the pastor's wife, her name is Melody, Miss Melody, became a mother to 40 kids. And she gave of herself completely, and she had so much faith in what God could do. And it was a nonprofit school, and he provided our daily needs all the time, places you wouldn't expect it to come from. But that's because of their faith, and her faith and willingness to be a faux mother to me, and a teacher and a counselor and everything, just witnessed powerfully to my life. The other one, my mother-in-law was one, but I'm going to go to this other woman. I lived with one of my best friends. I lived with her and her mom for a period of time, and she became a mother to me. And in fact, she's coming down here to visit me in 2 weeks, and Hazel is her name. And she's such a godly, beautiful, spirited woman, that even to this day, she just speaks truth into my heart. I mean, I can ask her a question about anything, and she will share her heart, share what the Bible says. She will give me guidance that I need. And yeah, Hazel and Melody would be my top two.
Oh, great, great. There are people who really would just come into your life, no, who could really make an impact and inspire you. Oh, that's wonderful. So before we end, what advice would you like to share to our listeners? One simple advice.
Oh, just one.
From what you have learned in your journey.
From what I had learned, my greatest advice would be don't take what's in your life too seriously right now, because it's going to change. Trust in whatever you're going through, that the Lord is with you in it, and he will get you through it. Find joy in those dark seasons, because you probably won't go back to that same season, and if when you look back, you don't want to have a regret and say, I wish I had been done this or looked this way or felt this way during it. So whatever dark, heavy season you're in now, find hope in it and trust that you're going to get through it, and know that you can use that season to bless others that are in it.
Most of the time when we fall flat on the ground, that's when the time we learn so much. And
Yes.
Yes, and that pushes us to really help others so that they won't fall. They won't experience the same fall. But we cannot compare ourselves. There's really no perfect medicine which we could give to other people, because our journey is different from their journey. But
Yeah.
at least they don't have to recreate. Our insights, our sharing, our stories might add, really would be an inspiration for them to really stand up and empower themselves that, hey, she was able to do it. I am able to do it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. So, Kari, how can they get in touch with you if they need to get in touch with you, our listeners?
I can give you my email or my website. Would you like
website
both?
is, website and
The
email.
website is kariwiseman.com. So it's KariWiseman.com. You can find my book sales there, the blogs there, and a lot of my photography is there as well. So,
and then
and the
email?
blog, my email is Kari Ellen Wiseman, KariEllenWiseman @gmail.com. And the blog, if you wanted just to go direct to that, is Snap Inspire, one word, SNAPINSPIRE.com.
Okay.
And that's your inspirational words of godly living.
Wow, wonderful. See what you're doing now to the rest of the world, to the people around the world, because of your story. And I'm sure a lot of people will be inspired by what you have gone through and what you have done.
That's the hope.
Yes, that's
the hope.
So thank you so much, Kari, for being our guest speaker, and to the listeners, watch out for the next episode. Thank you, and bye-bye. Bye, Kari.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Okay, bye.